Hello, I'm Michael Usher and welcome to Spotlight. Well, just over a month ago, Air India Flight 17...
Looking at that video, I actually don't see the flaps even at the initial rotation. So did they take off not in the takeoff configuration? Air India Flight 171 vanished from the skies just moments after takeoff. No storm, no explosion, just silence, then impact. At first, investigators blamed a system failure, until scientists uncovered something buried deep inside the aircraft data. What they found has left the aviation world stunned. According to leaked reports, the truth isn't just technical, it's intentional. Now, questions are surfacing that no one seems willing to answer. Scientists have finally solved the Air India 171 crash mystery, and it's far worse than we thought. What happened inside that cockpit is disturbing, and the implications may change everything we know about flight. A routine flight turned deadly. It started like any other afternoon on June 12, 2025. Air India Flight 171 was clear for takeoff from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport in Ahmedabad, bound for London Gatwick. The skies were clear, the winds light, and everything looked routine. Inside the cockpit, Captain Sumit Sabharwal, an experienced pilot with more than 10,000 hours on wide-body jets, sat beside his equally qualified and calm co-pilot. The aircraft, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, one of the most technologically advanced planes flying today, boarded smoothly, with 230 passengers unaware they were stepping onto what will become one of the most catastrophic flights in India's aviation history. At 13:38 local time, the tower gave the green light, throttle up, wheels rolling, and the plane lifted from the tarmac with what seemed like normal force. But almost immediately after leaving the runway, something didn't feel right. The aircraft struggled to gain altitude, staying dangerously low. Observers on the ground reported a strange, quieter than usual humming sound, and noticed the landing gear still down as the plane skimmed low over rooftops. Within 30 seconds, the pilot sent a chilling mayday. Thrust not achieved, falling, then silence. The aircraft never climbed above 700 feet, veered slightly left, dipped forward, and dropped rapidly. At 13:39, it slammed into a college hostel building in Meghaninagar, erupting into flames and debris, killing 241 of 242 on board and injuring more than 36 on the ground. Firefighters arrived within minutes, but the wreckage had already consumed concrete and lives alike. Amid the destruction, rescuers found something unexpected: a man alive. The only surviving passenger, seated at 11A, had been thrown into a patch of softer earth between two buildings, cushioned by insulation, and luggage blown from the fuselage. His account was brief: a hard jolt right after takeoff, a strange whirring noise, the world spinning, then blackout. A full lockdown of the crash site followed, and within 24 hours, investigators from India's AIB, Boeing engineers, and foreign aviation safety experts were on scene. The black boxes were recovered, but maintenance logs showed nothing unusual, and the engines had been checked just months and weeks earlier. How could a modern aircraft in good weather, flown by seasoned professionals, fall from the sky without warning? Public anger simmered as early theories: engine stall, hydraulic failure, sabotage emerged, but officials remained tight-lipped. The silence in those final moments, the failure to climb, and the lack of fire until impact all raised red flags. Investigators began searching not just for mechanical failure, but for a pattern or hidden system flaw. Because whatever happened to Flight 171 didn't fit the rules of a typical crash. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner, once hailed as a revolution in aviation with lightweight composite materials, fuel-efficient engines, and fully integrated electrical systems, now faced scrutiny. This particular aircraft, registration VDAB, was less than 8 years old and had passed inspection without major concerns. Yet 30 seconds into flight, everything failed. Experts noted that the Dreamliner's reliance on electrical systems over traditional hydraulics meant that any simultaneous main and backup power loss during takeoff could be instantly catastrophic. Witnesses and footage confirmed that the R-8T ram air turbine deployed within seconds of takeoff, an abnormal sign that the plane was already on emergency power before leaving the city limits. But why? There was no fire, no explosion, and no engine fragments in the debris. Simulations of the flight revealed the thrust levels were never right. The engines responded, but delivered reduced power, almost as if electronically restricted. Whispers began about a possible system override capable of throttling the engines without crew input, potentially triggered under specific conditions. If true, it raised an even bigger question. Who designed such a function, and who could trigger it? Confidence in the Dreamliner faltered as comparisons to other mysterious aviation incidents grew. For now, there was no evidence of pilot error, bird strike, or weather anomaly, only a cutting-edge plane that failed in clear skies. The focus turned to code, not bolts. When the wreckage was searched, the flight data recorder was found intact enough for analysis, but the cockpit voice recorder was crushed and charred, its final moments partially lost. The data confirmed that proper takeoff thrust was never achieved and that the RAT deployed 18 seconds after liftoff, but revealed no cause, no alerts, no sensor errors, just fuel flow readings far lower than expected. The voice recorder fragments were haunting. The captain saying, "Engines not responding, confirm settings." The co-pilot replied, "All set, nothing's changing." Then the captain again, "It's not us, it's locked out." That phrase ignited speculation. Locked out of what? An autopilot override, a software command, or something remotely triggered. Cybersecurity experts joined the investigation, knowing the 787 is as much a flying computer as it is an aircraft. The possibility that code could be exploited or manipulated was now on the table, though no one was ready to say it publicly, at least not yet. What made the mystery more frustrating was the timing. Everything happened so fast. From wheels up to impact was just over 60 seconds. The aircraft never had a chance to stabilize or circle back. The power failure, thrust drop, and RAT activation were almost simultaneous. And through it all, the data showed no human error, no panic, just two pilots doing everything they could and getting nothing in return. By the third week of the investigation, the AIB released a short statement confirming that unusual anomalies had been found in the fuel management and thrust control systems, but stopped short of calling them intentional. That word, anomalies, became a placeholder for something no one wanted to admit yet, but behind closed doors, the mood had shifted. One engineer reportedly said, "This doesn't look like a system failure. It looks like something or someone told the system to fail." Whether through tampering, malware, or a yet undiscovered flaw, one thing was becoming clear. The black box wasn't telling the full story, not because it was broken, but because the real story may have started long before takeoff and was still hiding in plain sight. According to newly surfaced reports from the investigation team, scientists working on the Air India 171 case may have finally uncovered the missing link, and if accurate, it changes everything we thought we knew about the crash. This wasn't just a tragic accident. This was something calculated, buried, and far worse than we thought. The breakthrough didn't come from India, but from a joint team of cybersecurity and avionics experts under a discreet agreement between multiple countries, including the UK and Israel. Their focus wasn't on the aircraft mechanics or weather conditions. It was the data, specifically the unusual digital behavior hidden in the software logs on the flight data recorder. What they found was deeply unsettling. Buried in the final seconds before the crash was a coded command. Sequence issued to the aircraft's engine indicating and crew alerting system ICAs. This was not a command pilots could trigger from the cockpit. It was buried deep in a maintenance subroutine used only in ground tests. Yet, for reasons no one can explain, it activated shortly after takeoff, cutting thrust by over 60% and triggering a cascade of electrical shutdowns, forcing the RAT to deploy and the aircraft to fall. The log suggested the command came from within the system, but had to be initiated by something, a corrupted file, a software implant, or, as one whistleblower hinted, something injected intentionally long before the flight left the ground. Now, the whispered question isn't just what happened, but who did this and why? Theories emerged. Unauthorized access during a routine systems check the week before, or perhaps part of a broader sabotage attempt against civil aviation. No official confirmation has been given, but the quiet involvement of foreign intelligence agencies suggests something deeper is at play. No group has claimed responsibility. No tampering was found at the airport, and the pilots remain blameless, but the data is undeniable. Something told that aircraft to fail, and it knew exactly how to do it without leaving a fingerprint. One senior analyst put it plainly, this wasn't a malfunction, it was a shutdown. So yes, scientists may have solved the Air India 171 mystery, but the answer only leads to darker places. It was likely deliberate system interference, digitally embedded or externally triggered. The aircraft followed a sequence it was never meant to execute in flight, and someone or something had the knowledge and access to make it happen. What we don't know is who planted it, when it was introduced, and whether this is an isolated case or the first confirmed instance of a commercial airliner being taken down through invisible sabotage. Until those questions are answered, we're left with a chilling reality. The technology we trust most can be turned against us, and we might never see it coming. According to reports, this wasn't just a crash. It was a message, and the world isn't ready for what it means. As details leaked, the public narrative shifted from malfunction to something intentional, but officials kept their language careful. Anomalous software behavior, unexpected system responses. Not one agency used the word sabotage. Not yet. Independent analysts, retired pilots, and cybersecurity experts began connecting dots, noting similarities to a 2022 Middle Eastern cargo incident where thrust was mysteriously reduced midair. That plane landed. This one didn't. Questions mounted. Why was a rarely used maintenance command active during takeoff? Why didn't diagnostics flag it? Why has the full cockpit audio not been released? And if this was foul play, who was the target? Some whisper of a passenger under protection. Others suggest it was a test or demonstration of access, a warning. The government promised transparency, then went silent. Families were left in limbo, some calling it less a crash and more a cover-up. Inside the investigation, a report suggesting unauthorized access before flight was allegedly softened and never made public. International agencies quietly pulled back. Boeing reaffirmed the 787 safety, calling it a unique confluence of events. Air India briefly grounded some Dreamliner for diagnostics, then returned them to service. Officially, the matter faded. But behind the scenes, the focus shifted to access points, network permissions, and maintenance protocol loopholes. Flight 171 became a blueprint for worst-case scenarios in aviation cybersecurity. Yet the higher the questions went, the fewer answers came down. Was it an inside job? A software supply chain breach? A hostile warning? No culprit has emerged, but the digital fingerprint remains, in the code, in the silence, and the fact that no one will name what really happened. As public attention drifted, statements grew vaguer, and the raw facts were buried under bureaucracy and international politeness. No dramatic press conference, no whistleblower, no justice, at least not yet. Behind the scenes, airlines received confidential software auditing guidelines. Boeing quietly reviewed its code access architecture. Air India replaced dozens of diagnostic modules. Pilots, once trained to handle mechanical failures, were now briefed on the possibility of system interference from within an aircraft's own digital brain. For families, this silence felt like a second crash. They say they found the cause, one father said, but they won't say what caused it. That's not closure, that's cruelty. The final report labeled the crash as a result of compromised system behavior under review, avoiding any mention of locked-out thrust controls, embedded commands, or foul play. But those who had seen the real data knew the truth. This wasn't a mechanical failure or pilot error. Something else was involved, and no one can guarantee it won't happen again. That's the unspoken fear now. Modern aircraft may have opened a new door not to safer skies, but to invisible threats no pilot can see and no checklist can catch. A code buried in the system. A silent override. A digital hand pulling the plane down, while everyone on board trusts the very systems designed to save them. Flight 171 should have landed in London. Instead, it became a turning point. And the truth, as scientists now confirm, is far worse than we thought.